Okay, impact fees. Basically, I met Malcolm in 2000, Malcolm Smith with the Rocky Mountain Group. I basically met him in 98 to 2000 in that range. And the concept is you let growth pay for growth. Because when you have growth, it creates a fiscal impact on your local services.
Absolutely.
So, actually it was before that, but in '99, we had a developer that had bought Hartsel Ranch that was talking about doing 3,400 houses, a big lodge, was going to develop the hot springs, and they dropped a PUD on my desk that was that thick. And I went to the board and said, we got problems. If we don't get ahead of this, we're in trouble. We convinced him to pay for half of the study. You have to have in the state, you have to have a fiscal impact report and study that justifies the money that you will get. For an impact fee.
Okay.
We got a proposal from the Rocky Mountain Group for $24,000 to do this study. But one of the reasons it was $24,000 is because of the mass of that PUD. So we convinced the developer to pay for half of the study. So he ponied up $12,000 to pay for half the study. Had it all done, run into the county technically has to collect it for you. Okay? Technically, you present it to the county technically has to collect it for you.
Okay.
When we presented it to the county, we found a problem. Because of their Bruce and Tabor limitations, it would throw them over their cap. So we had to figure out a way. Well, in the meantime, in 2001, 9/11 happened, buildings slowed up. So we backed off the impact fees totally. Just basically back them off and shelf them. The timing was way off on it. Our economy was dropping and growth wasn't happening. That developer had gone away. In the meantime, we started all these other projects and got a division of local government grant to do Station 5 and got a couple federal grants to buy SCBAs and a new cascade system, and took our capital reserves, built 2 trucks, bought a truck, kept things kicking along real good. Well, in 2004, I'm looking at the projections and brought it back to the board on the impact fees, which we had to pay an additional $5,000 to Malcolm to do an updated study. The first study, it was going to be $963 per residential house, $968, I think, per residential house to build in the fire district. And all of us thought that was way too high. On the second study, because of building the other 2 stations and doing the addition and the equipment we bought, they brought it down to $763, which was approved, and we figured out a way to legally to get around the Bruce for the county. Set it up so January of '05 to collect impact fees at $763 per residential house.
Now, would that be on just residential construction or commercial?
Commercial is a whole different formula. It depends on use, square footage, the whole ball wax.
Okay.
Have had no commercial, period. So we started collecting impact fees January 1st of 2005. The deal was on the impact fees is that we had to set up it had to be accountable separately from your general fund totally. So my recommendation was that we put it in a separate bank and more of an escrow account. So that, because we couldn't take it out except for once a year after, we held it for the year. That way I knew budgetarily, and if there was a problem, we can reimburse it, whatever. But for 2005, I was to take that money, figure into the 2006 budget, and then the 2006 transferred in. Okay? Never thought another thing about it. Set up the bank accounts down at High Country Bank. Debbie would take the money that came into the office. We had an accounting every month from her on how much impact fees we brought in. And we thought we had a growing bank account. Impact fees are only to be used for capital expenditures. In other words, they're not supposed to be used for day-to-day activities and
Ongoing operations.
ongoing operations, strictly capital expenditures. That's why I had to ask the attorney if there was a problem. And it's not a state law, it was a district where we came out and said it was in our resolution that we hold it for the year. Okay? And at that point, Dick Lyons recommended, said we could go ahead and transfer it in. What I didn't realize is what had happened. And now, knowing what I know, there's a lot of changes I've been made. I did not realize that it was being tapped. I figured if we had a problem, the auditor would find it.
And when you say being tapped, just to be specific.
Okay. After Debbie admitted to Susie and I and what she'd done, we immediately went to People's Bank, which is where we keep the general fund, the money market account, and the volunteer fund, and froze all accounts. Then we went over to High Country Bank, the branch bank in Green Investment, and shut those accounts. They handed me and Susie basically the last 30 days statement, and I blew up because that was supposed to be basically a high interest account with no service charges. And the first thing I saw was a $10.78 service charge. And I blew up with it. I said, what the hell are you charging the service charges for? And Susie poked me and said, because we're under the minimum balance. I said, what? Well, then we got to go into it. And that's when we discovered what had been going on.
Which is, just to get it on the record.
Basically what she was doing, from what we discovered, she was transferring money from the money market to the general fund, from the general fund to the money, or to the impact fees, straight out of the impact fees into her account over the internet.
How many, during 2005, how many commercial ventures had to get building permits? And
No commercial.
so it was purely residential?
Purely residential. $763 a crack.
Times how many houses?
I believe there was, and I've got the report on my desk, or in the office someplace. Sticks in my head, there was 42. It wasn't as good as we thought.
Now that's 42 houses that you know for sure got building permits, or 42
That was
Debbie
42
reported to
that
you?
was reported to us. Okay?